Hi friends, welcome to the fourth section of our HTML series course. In this section, we are going to be looking at what is accessibility in HTML and semantic tags. We'll also be building a very cool registration form from start to finish, just front end alone with no back end. If this sounds like what you are interested in, follow on with the video to get stuff done. For the tutorial outline of this video, we are going to learn the meaning of accessibility and semantic tags in HTML. You equally learn about the different types of forms and forms control in HTML. So stick around with me. Let's get into the lesson. Let's talk about form controls. Forms are input in your website which users can automatically type in their names, their email, their passwords, and other preferences like messages on the website. They are all under form controls. Form is always starting with the form control input element. You can see it there on the screen, and in this video we are going to be learning about forms by coding a registration form. In the registration form, we are going to have the text input like this username and the password input like this password, enter password, and also the text area input and the radio buttons. Note the difference between radio buttons and normal checkbox buttons is that radio button you only need to select one once, and checkbox you can select multiple at a time. We will be covering that in this video, including the select drop down forms control and even the style input form control and the submit button. So if that's what you're interested in, stick along with us. We will be building this project while learning. Alright guys, to start, let's first of all open our VS Studio Code editor on our laptop. So we open our VS Studio Code. Alright, I've got mine open. So you now click on new text file and press Ctrl S to save it as HTML. Let's say form practice, or let's say registration form. File type HTML. So let me save my own in a folder that I can recognize. So mine should be in documents. So I change the folder to documents so I'll be able to find it quickly in the lesson. Alright, let's start with the basic form structure. We are going to have let's write our HTML boilerplate first. Best practice. We change the title to registration form. Alright then. In the body, we are going to have our basic form structure, which is always in the form of this. And you are going to have your attributes such as the action and the method. This action and method is used for the back-end processes. So in the action, it's going to be a link to the back-end server, which we are going to just have an hash there for now. For the method, we can use post. Method can either be get or post. You can also write get here, depending on the type of form you are creating, whether it's a search bar. It's always restricted depending on the type of form you are creating. So this is the form control. This one you have highlighted is the form control. We are going to this the form control parent elements. As I said, we are going to write our all our forms inside here, inside this form control. We will write all our forms inside the form control parent element. So as I thought, if you have not seen my lesson on nesting and indentation, go and watch that video and go to the part of nesting and indentation. I explain why it's going to be so this way. So in this form control parent element, we are going to have our text input first. Input. In that input, we are going to have our type is going to be equals to text. Type will be equals to text. ID. We're going to have the ID attribute. D is going to be the identity, like how it's going to be observed in the for accessibility, and what is going to be written when it's shown in the label. So ID is going to be, let's say, username. From our example, we had the ID was equals to username. Can you remember? Like, can you see our example on the screen? So ID is equals to username, as you can see. And then we have placeholder. Let me not use placeholder yet. So now we can now show preview. Can you see we have a form control there? Okay, we had a heading which was registration form H1 element. So that's our heading. We have added our heading there. In writing form, there's something we call label, which is used for accessibility for screen readers. So before we always write input, it's always best practice to have our label element. In the label element, we are going to have the 4 attributes, and we are also going to have the same letter that we had in this ID attribute, which is going to be the username. If not, your form is going to be invalid. So if you don't have the same letters here, it's not going to, the label attribute is not going to perform well. I'll tell you why in a millisecond. So we are going to have username in between this label. We are going to have the username in between this label tag. Have our username. Can you see what happens when we have our username in between the label tab? Can you see what happens in the preview section? So that's what happens when you have your label as username, and you now input the write up what you want to show in the preview in between the 2 label opening and closing tag. This is the opening tag for the label, and this is the closing tag. The text you want to show in this preview, like this executes, the text you want to execute will be this username, which will be in the middle of the opening and closing tag of the label. So that's for the text input element. This for text input elements. For another thing we are going to have in the text input element is going to be placeholder. Placeholder, which we are going to write enter your name. Can you see what is going on in the preview page? See what's going on in the preview page. This is called preview page, where you can see my cursor. That's the preview page if you don't know what it is. Another attribute that we are going to have in between the text input form control is going to be the name attribute. So let's write it down. Name attribute. So in the name attribute, we are going to have the name attribute. We are going to have the username. Note that this name attribute is mostly concerned with those that are handling the back end. A website has both front end and back end, and what we are doing now is front end, like what the user views. So now let's add a comment here. Comments in HTML, comments are those line of sentence that you use to describe some blocks of code, every block of code. Like if you are working with a team, you need comments. This is what comments look like. So let's have username. You see the comment is not executing outward. It's not. So let's have username text input. So that's it. Text form input. So that's it. Right now, if you look at this our example, if you look at our example, from our example, this username, this text here is not is on the same line with is not on the same line with this bar. So now we are going to make it on the same on so now we are going to make it exactly like this in our HTML file. So now let's go to our HTML file. To make this this bar here come down, look at the preview. Follow my cursor and look at the preview. To make this bar here come down, we are going to have a space, a break element in between the label text and the search bar. So now what I need you to understand is, let's have a break element here. So now the bar has come down. So that's what does that tells you, that the break element pushes the bar, that this is the bar now. This is the bar that you have seen. That's why we have placeholder here. And now this is the text. This is what contains the text of the element. Can you see? The text is here. There is this username in between the label elements, as I told you. So now we have a break element here. That's for the text input form control. Let's move over to password input form control. Password form input. So we're going to have our label test. The shortcut for label, you just type in the label and then you press enter. That's the shortcut for writing label. Just type in the label. 4 will be password. For the 4, we are going to have password. So now we will have our label face to have the text. To have that text. Inside the text, in between the label opening tag, this is the label opening tag, as I said, and this is label closing tag. In between that label opening and closing tag, that is in the middle, we are going to have our text, which you see it appearing on the preview. This is the preview. You don't know, you see the text appearing on the preview. So now, can you see the text is appearing beside this bar of the beside this bar of the input of the text input element. So now we are going to add a break element here to separate them. A break element in front of that input text dash in front of that bar, or we can add it here in the before we have the text for password. That's the label. You can add it here where you see my cursor before that label. It will either keep space on top or space below. So let me add my here. We have break br. We add the first br. So adding one break element, it's only nothing really happens. It just comes down once. So let's add another space there. Break element. Break element gives a space of 16 pixels. So we have another space there. It's now looking nice. And we have our input, just like that of text. That of text input. So but here we have password. You just write input, then press enter if you are looking for what I did to make it pop up that fast. ID attribute is going to be password. Name is going to be password. Name will be password. Placeholder. Let's have our placeholder. Enter your password. So that's for our placeholder. We also have a break element after the password text. So we will put it in front of this label as I described. So this label was for the password text. So we will put our break element in this preview so that this bar is going to come downwards to keep a space there. Let's put the break element. So that's what the break element is used for if you didn't know what it was. After the break element, we are going to, after the password input, the next form input you have will be the text area input. So let's have our comment. Under the text area, we had something like your bio. The text area was with the text bio. So we will all equally write the we will equally write this your bio on our text area too. So let's do it. So this will be bio. Let's take this as bio text area form input. So under the text area, we have our label and enter. Press label, then press enter. It will automatically give you this. We have the 4 attributes for bio. Let's use bio. So the text here was your bio, which you see appearing on the screen. So now let's add a space between this search bar and this your bio. So we are going to input a break element there. We'll add another one. That's 2 break elements. So now we have, for the text area, it's going to be different. You write your, it's going to be, this is how text area is written. Text area. Yeah, you have the closing and opening tag for text area. You're going to have the closing and opening tag for text area. You now have your type. For the text area, there is no type, sorry, no type for text area. So you have your ID attribute, which should be bio. Bio. I've corrected the 4 attributes to bio. So the ID attribute is supposed to be the same with the 4 attributes. Okay. So our placeholder, what did we have as our placeholder in that document? It was write about, as you can see, we had write about yourself in the placeholder. So let's go back to our VS Studio Code editor. We're going to have a write about yourself. If the names are not the same, we'll have problem with those running the back end. So we're going to have our label attribute under. So under the label we have email, and then to write the text of the label, you put it in between the closing and the opening tags of the label. So we have email text there. So that's it. So can you see how that's for the radio button. That's how the radio button is done. So we are going to add the break element here for spaces, to skip spaces for us to write the other attributes. The second attribute we are going to have will be the checkbox. So let's write a comment. So can you see we have the checkbox. Under the checkbox we have hobbies. Under the checkbox we have hobbies, and under the hobbies we have coding, music, and sports. So we are going to work on that. And alright, if you look at this thing, you see something like choose your gender. And how will we do this with the radio button? It's not possible. So you are not using the radio buttons to write that choose your gender. It's not the radio buttons that you use for that. So now we are going to have a choose your gender. We are going to have a text there called choose your gender, a paragraph element. That's why it's good to have plan on what you are coding. So that you see the pictorial view of it. Choose your gender. That will be we are going to have a paragraph element because if you use the label, which form and ID attribute would you use for the label? So there is no form and ID for attribute and ID attribute you use for the label if you are using a label text to impute that choose your gender. So you are going to use a paragraph element. Let's have our under this comment we are going to write hobbies. This is for the checkbox input form control. So for the checkbox, so that's it. We are going to also have the input almost like the radio button. But this one, you can only click it. You can select multiple radio buttons. As you can see, I'm still writing radio buttons. Checkbox. Can you see the difference? The box aren't the same. Radio buttons, you can only select one at a time. The checkbox, you can select multiple. And there is also an attribute we call required. You can write required here. No, required is only for the checkbox. Required attribute is only for the checkbox. So now we're going to have our ID. Identity will be coding. The first identity we had was coding. That's ID attribute was coding. Our name would be the same name throughout, as I said. That would be hobbies. Let's use hobbies. So now under that we are going to have the label element. So we will have coding as a label element. So here we are going to write coding in between the opening and closing tags of the label element. So remember there was a text. I don't want to make that same mistake again. There was a text here. There was a text here above this. There was a text above this. Select your hobbies. There was a text. This is the text I'm trying to show you guys. That is a text. So there was a text there called select your hobby. So we write that text now. And now we are writing it in the paragraph element. Because if you use the label, there is no for ID attribute that you link to this. Okay. All the ID attributes have all gone to this input. You see, for attribute for label, ID attribute. So if you use label here, which ID attribute? Which four attributes will you use an ID attribute? So you are using the paragraph element there to write that text. Now we are going to have our second input. You know, in this checkbox we have three input. Checkbox, ID. The second category we had was music. If you can remember, recall clearly. So the name is going to be the same. Name, we are going to have music. We are going to have hobbies. Name is going to be the same for all the checkbox input. So we have our label for music. The label, this, remember what I said about this for an ID attribute. the same thing goes here. So if this for attribute is not music and the ID attribute is music, if they are not the same text, once you click this, no, if they are not the same text, let's have our music here so that we will be able to see the text that we are working on. If they are not the same text, once we click this music, this text here, you see this text, once we click it, you're supposed to click automatically click this search box once we click this text, but it's not the same. So now, because these four attributes, we have removed the m. Once we add the m and we go to the preview, follow my cursor, you go to the preview and you click that text, that the music text, not the box yet. You click the text, it's going to automatically select. Okay, my music is with capital letter N for the four attributes. So let's change it to small letter m. Alright, so now once we click the music text, it has selected automatically. So that's it. You can radio button, you can select multiple at a time, but checkbox you only select one because one value is required. Someone cannot be a male and female gender at the same time, but someone can have different hobbies. That's why we are using the checkbox for hobbies and the radio buttons for gender. So for the third checkbox, we are going to have, remember we had three checkbox which we are not yet done. We also have spot, another checkbox. Well, a third checkbox was remaining, which was spot. So now, let's add that now. Input checkbox. ID attribute will be spot. Name attribute will be hobbies. The name attribute, have you noticed, is the same all around as I said. So label, going to be label 4 will be spot. The same as the ID attributes as I explained earlier. To have the text there, can you see the preview? There's no text. So to have the text, we'll put the cursor in between the two label elements. So now we have spots there. So that's it. Let's have our icon in front of that select your hobbies. Alright, we have our semicolon in front of the select our hobby. I just included that. That icon I just highlighted. I included it just now. Alright guys, the next form input control we are going to have is going to be the select form input. That's the drop down form input, or you can call it the select button. So if you notice difference between this password and this name, password, once you type in password, you are going to see these dotted figures. So once you type in username, actual username, you see the letters you are typing. So that was the difference between username and password. So now let us go into let's go into drop down input form control. So under the drop down input form control, we had countries. So drop down form input. So for the drop down, or you can call it select, we are going to have something like the label first. We will have the label first because we are going to have an ID attribute to link it to. So we have the label first to have the text. On the label, we are going to have four attributes as countries. Here we are going to have countries. So can you see on this, in between this label attribute, we are going to have select your countries. Can you see the difference between drop down and other between drop down and other attributes and other form input element. So let's have the break here to separate that text. We have the break in front of this text here of this spot, in front of this label element in this spot where you can see my cursor, to keep space. So that selects your country. Select your countries. Can you see we have a space there? So now some of you might wish to bolden yours. If you want to bolden it, just use the B tag. B. Just carry this and impute it. Just impute it with the B tag. Open and close B tag. That's for bolden. So now we are going to, now we have already skipped some space between that select your country and the checkbox input. So the space is not enough. I'm going to add another space, a third space. Yeah, it's now looking alright now. Alright, can you see it looking okay? You have added the third space. Select your country. So let's remove it since it's not, or let's add our third space so that it will look more nice. Select your countries. So under this, we are going to have something like the select element for the drop down form control. Have the select element. The select element usually have the open and close tag. They usually have the open and close tag. So, and they have option values. Option and option values. The option usually have open and close tag. Option will have the value. So now we are going to copy these options. You see the reason I'm copying it soon, because these options will carry the different letters of that select drop down but bar. So let's have here Nigeria. We have in this value Nigeria. Can you see the select button has already come up? In this select, I forgot to include it. We are going to have the ID attribute, which will have the same letter as these four attributes. That will be countries. So now we can once we select, we should, what's happening? Value. Ghana. So now we are going to have our select letters. What we are to select in between the option, the opening tag. We have it in between the option opening tag, follow my cursor, and the option closing tag. So that's where we have the select element text. Ghana. The second one will be Ghana. The third one will be Kenya. That's for the third select button. So once you click on that select button, you see you can select any of them of your choice. That's for the select button. After the select button, we are going to include these account details. Can you see there is something, if you can look at this very well, there is a line there is a straight line. Let me underline the straight line. This straight line, can you observe this straight line that is moving towards here? Can you observe it? See it here. Just observe the line. Something like this. Yeah. I hope you have observed it. That straight line is called field set. So let's have our open and close field set. We have our field set. Just write field set, then press enter. Just write field as if you are writing a field set, then press enter. It will automatically pop up. We now have our legend. This legend is to show the original where the line is meeting, that account details. The legend there is to show these account details where the line comes to meet, the text where the line comes to meet. So we are going to write that text in the legend. Okay, legend. Let's have our paragraph element. B tag. Alright. So now that's how the legend looks like. Can you see? Can you see what we just did? We have had our lines too, like how you saw in that example. So now under the legend, what did we have? We have the type input equals to email. You can see this type input equals to email. This is different from the text input form control and the password input form control. This one will be, we are going to write email in this particular, at that particular point. We write our type will be equals to email. Then under here we have password. So under here, our type will be equals to password. So now we're going to have our input type will be equals to email. So you have our ID attribute, our name, and our placeholder. So now once you use that type equals to email, once you click on it and you press name, let's add our name first before name, email, ID attribute, email, name, email. So placeholder will be enter your email. Yeah. So let's have our label element. The label element will have the same attribute for and ID attribute. So now that's for the email form input control. So if we execute it now in our let's open browser. Open browser. You click on those 4 icons, you would have followed my cursor. So let's open browser. So now once we click on it, the email, enter your email in our browser, it will automatically show us this email to choose from. Can you see it's completely responsive? So if you check our preview, you are going to see that the email that we have here is without a text. So remember how I taught you how to add a text? Let's go to the label and write email. Now I exited my preview. Let's show preview. So can you see? Can you see the way where the text is? Because my label which contains the text is under the input. So we'll carry it up. Email semicolon. So let's take it upwards. Take the text upward. Yeah, it's now okay. So if you check our example, after the email we had the confirm password. We have the password input form control. So let's create it. Inside it, both of them were inside the same field set. If you can see, they were inside this field set. Let me remove my pen and edit. both of them are inside this field set. This is a field set, I mean. Can you see they are all under this field set? Sorry, my line is not really outstanding. Just for explanation. And we are going to create the password input inside that same field set. So first of all, we have the label for the text, which will be, let me say, password 2. Yeah, because we already had a password here. We already had a password, so this one should be password 2. So avoid confusing those in the backend server. So to be password 2. We have our input element. Just write input, press enter. Just cut. Press enter. Write input and press enter. It automatically running your VS Studio Code. This will be password 2. No, password. Name is equals to, for the input type is going to be password, because that is it's trying to indicate the type of form input control, not the name in the backend server. So after the type, we are going to have the ID attribute, which will be the same name with that 4 attributes, which is going to be password 2. And after the ID attribute, we have the name, password 2. And then we are going to have the placeholder. Placeholder will be enter your password. So can you see what's happening here? Let's add our break element in front of this email, input element. So let's add our break element to keep a space. Another break element. So that's it. After adding, no, there's no number in between the break. Yeah. So after adding the break element, we'll come in between the middle of this level tag to have our pass. No, here it was confirm password, not password. As you can see, it was confirm password. So and um that placeholder, I'm the one that introduced it by myself. Can you see there's no placeholder here? So placeholder, we'll cancel it since we didn't have placeholder in our example. Let's cancel it. Um, so we are done with that. We now have here confirm password. So that's it. As you can see. So that's how we got to that point. After the text input form control, the next type of form control we are going to, after the field set, what we are going to do next is going to be the, let me check our picture. It's going to be the submit button. That's the submit form. So now we have our, it will still be inside the same, it will still be inside the form control parent element, this parent element down, you can remember. So we have our input. wrong with the keyboard. Input type is going to be equals to file. Is going to be equals to submit. Can you see the button has popped up? Let me cancel this dash. Can you see the button has popped up? Let's keep a space in front of this field set. BR. So I've kept a space. Like that space is too much. Let's remove one BR. So it's okay now. Field type equals submit. So in this submit button, we are going to have our value. So our value is going to show the text form. Our value is going to show the text in this submit button. You can observe it. For the input, for the submit button, we are not going to have the label element. We won't have the label because we are not writing any text with the submit button. For the button too, you can also use this button. You can also use this element. Can you see there is a button there? You now use submit. You know, different people like to do the things in different ways. So that's it. That's another element for button. But for now, let's use the input type. Let's add our comment there. Our comment is going to be submit. Let it just be submit. So you can also have a file, so that a file that is going to show upload file. Let's have our file input element. Let me show you another stuff you need to know in HTML. You can have the file input type equals to file. To add a space between the file input form control and the submit button. This BR is showing red because we haven't closed the tab. So can you see how it goes? We have the file. You can now click choose. Once you click choose file, it will take you to your file folder. This is just for practice purpose. You can't submit the form. Alright guys, let's look at accessibility in HTML. Accessibility means making the website usable for everyone, including users like those who use screen readers. Those are like blind users, those who have blurry eye vision, who cannot read from the screen. So they use screen reader. Let me show you what a screen reader looks like. Let's open Google Chrome. Let's go to a website called investing.com. You can go to any website of your choice, but for now, let me use the website called investing.com. Let's start by pressing Ctrl plus Window plus Enter. So once we press it, you will turn on the screen reader.
Investing.com.
Can you see the screen reader is turned on? Once you bring your cursor and click anywhere, it's going to start reading that exact position.
Investing.com.
Once we click here, you see it's going to show that this is it's going to
banner,
mention to
link,
screen readers that this is
investing
a
challenges.
link.
Investing.com.
Can you see how it is? So that's how
Narrator.
the screen
One
reader
running
works.
window is requesting attention. Narrator heading level 1. Welcome to narrator.
Let's off the.
Exiting narrator.
So to off it, you are still going to press Ctrl plus Window plus Enter. That's to exit the narrator. That's for people who are blind, who cannot see. So the screen automatically reads the information out as if it's an audiobook. There are different types of semantic tags in HTML which are used for accessibility. The first semantic tag we are going to consider is the navigation. The second one is going to be the header. Navigation is used for links in the navigation bar, like the login, the sign up button, another home page. So the header is going to be for the heading section of your website. The footer is going to be for the beneath section of your website, like the bottom of the website where you have the privacy policy, the different other external links. So the main section is going to be for the main content of your web page, like the testimonials. Even the section you can use the section elements for any other one. We have the section too, and we equally have the figure, which is used for images. We also have the articles, which is used for content block, to write content like a blog post in your website. So that's for the different types of accessibility in HTML. Congratulations on finishing the 4th section of my HTML series course. If you are interested in more courses like this, subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. See you in the next lesson.